Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I call to order the meeting of the Manassas Park Governing Body for Tuesday, February 21st, 2023. First, we need to address remote participation. Vice Mayor Alana Mensing has requested to participate remotely. She is in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the reason for remote participation is that she's attending an event celebrating her grandmother's 99th birthday. So all in favor of Vice Mayor Mensing participating remotely?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay. Hearing none. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have moment of silence, and Councilmember Javed, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on to public comment time. We have one individual signed up, Mr. Charlie Grimes. Please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
My name's Charlie Grimes. I live at 6836 General Longstreet's line out in far western Manassas, Prince William County area. I'm with the Greater Prince William Trails Coalition, and I'm here tonight to compliment the opportunity we've had to work with your city staff, Jay Swisher, Steve Hall. The folks that we've worked with have been wonderfully receiving of ideas, constructive and innovative in their thinking about how do we make a bike pedestrian network more accessible to everybody. The city of Manassas has got a pretty good setup, but I think you guys are going to compete quite effectively with them when you build your Complete Streets network. I wish you luck with the RAISE grant, but I think it's just been an absolute delight to work with the city of Manassas Park. And when people done good, we want to be thankful and let them know that they are appreciated. Your folks are doing good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else who is not signed up but who would still like to make public comment? Seeing no one and hearing no one, we will move on. Also, as a short reminder, a change in the rules and procedures that the governing body follows means a change in how we accommodate comments that come in during the meeting. Any comments that come in during the meeting will still be forwarded to me, and I will read those comments during the second public comment period towards the end of the meeting. Okay, so moving on to number 5, we have a community maintenance working group update by Councilmember Hampton.
So, Laszlo, did I just go ahead and pull it up?
Is it uploaded?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Well, while we're pulling it up, we have a few special guests, one in the audience and 2 online who participated in the 2022 Winter Lights Extravaganza, including Mr. Moore, who's joining us from Germany. And we have the Scouts, who served as our judges. They served as our judges for the Winter Lights Extravaganza, as well for the Halloween Houses of Lights. And that's them over there waving. Yes, please. Yep, that's it. Okay. All right. Let me pull up my phone. All right, so over here, we can skip through that. That's just the folks that are on the committee. So I'll just kind of give you a debrief of what we've been working on. As a reminder, what you all approved last year was for us to move forward with the litter collection programs, which we'll talk a little bit about our first one that'll be happening this spring. Our code education campaign, which I believe it was last month or in December, we had the city staff present, and our next big thing is taking that presentation and turning it into some education material for the residents. The home and apartment decoration contest, which we'll talk a little bit later in a moment, and that's our Halloween Houses of Lights and our Winter Lights Extravaganza. The volunteer corps, that's a ways away, which is the snow removal and yard work, and long-term, the community garden. Move on to the next. All right, so the home and apartment decoration contest, a little update on that should say 2022, evidently I'm 20 years behind. Winter Lights Extravaganza. The Nellis Group was a sponsor, and we thank them. That's the Nellis Group up there in the upper right-hand corner. We actually had 17 participating homes, and we had the scouts serve as the judges. And these are some of the pictures of some of the winners, as well as the scouts. And so you can see this year, people went above and beyond with the lights. Move on to the next one. And so our new event is going to be the citywide Spring Clean, which will be on Saturday, April 22nd. And this has got 4 elements of it. The first element is we're going to be working with the businesses near the high school to do cleanup around their area, whether that's their parking lot or the public area right by them. We have an inquiry out right now about the list of businesses. We're going to do that, as well as possibly knock on some doors to get a few businesses engaged. The second thing that we're going to be, we're also going to be working with the schools. We've initiated a conversation with them for the schools to do some sort of litter collection campaign or something else revolving spring cleaning the week either before or after Earth Day. Then we also have Earth Day at Polk Street Park. This is a new concept that we've come up with. It's also going to be like a pilot for when Keep the Park is available. And then the next slide will give you a little bit more detail. And then, can you go back real quick? And then Keep the Park Beautiful. We approved that last month. My understanding is that the application and the money to start it was submitted last week, and follow-up will occur this week, so we're moving forward on that. Can you move to the next one? Okay. So our new event is called Citywide Spring Clean. It's going to be the morning of April 22nd from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Polk Street Park. We joke around. It's called Bring Your Own Cleaning Supplies. We're going to be out there for 2 hours, cleaning up the park and the streets surrounding Polk Park. It's open to residents. There's going to be information going out here shortly. Because the area is really, there's not a big street and there's not a lot of places to park, we're asking residents that participate to park at the police department. Public Works will come by around 11 o'clock and pick up the whatever bags of trash that we collect. And as mentioned before, this is going to be a pilot for future Keep the Park Beautiful events. So more to come. We hope to see our fellow city council members there that day. You move on to the next one. And with that, that's all we have about the Community Maintenance Working Group. And at this point, we'll turn it back to the mayor to congratulate
Excellent. Are there any comments or questions for Councilmember Hampton? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on to 5B, we want to thank everyone who's joining us, both online and in person. And we have participants and winners to recognize for both the Halloween and the winter light display. So let me read the Halloween first. That would be Ms. Alicia Sowers and Mr. Rick Schubert. The winter light extravaganza would be Campang Sisofa, Lucille Schneider, Kenneth Sheets, T.J. Strickland, Ronald Kadar, Karen Jones, Veronica Payne, Alicia Sowers, Laura Hampton, Jason Moore, Jalisa and John Clybourne, Zarella Mansell, Kevin Pitak, Rick Schubert, Maria Sywek, Janine Henderson, and Stephanie Bettis. That is a tremendous amount of city spirit, so this is just wonderful. Does Lena have the certificates? If you want to give them to Laura.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Well, let me find these.
Will they be mailed to the recipients or?
Okay,
The ones that are not here will be.
Yeah, okay.
yes. Maria, do you want to come up, and since you're in person,
Yeah.
let me find yours? And, Mayor? Madam Mayor,
Congratulations. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
do you want to read off, thank the scouts and the sponsors?
Oh, I don't have any paperwork on that.
Okay.
If you, would you like to do that?
Yeah, I'll do that in a second.
Okay.
Okay, all right, somewhere in here is yours. Pardon?
Can I take pictures?
Sure, as soon as I find, oh, here it is. And then we'll take a picture and we'll show Mr. Moore his. Maria, thank you. That's your certificate of appreciation. I'm not very good at this. Is it okay? I have to read it after. I don't know.
There you go.
With me in the middle.
There you go.
Super.
Thank you.
Okay.
And let me find Mr. Moore's.
Okay.
But we also, like I said, we have the scouts over here, and we thank the scouts. They are always a big supporter of all things here in Manassas Park, and this is their second year of being judges for the Winter Lights Extravaganza. And it was the first year, also was our first time ever with the Halloween Houses of Lights. We're deeply indebted to the young men and women of Scouts Troop 1372. So thank you very much, Scouts, and thank you for showing your leadership for the city.
Thank you.
And Mr. Moore, I know you're joining us from Germany, but this is yours, and we'll send it in the mail, and thank you very much for the amazing display. That is his house right there, and he actually
Hey.
tunes it to music.
Yeah,
Super.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, and we hope
Thank you for
to,
the opportunity, and I really enjoy putting the lights up, and I hope the community can enjoy them as much as I do. Thank you.
We appreciate everyone who
Thank you.
participated in any way. Thank you very much. You're more than welcome to stay with us for the rest of the meeting.
It's only 10 after 1 a.m. here, so I'll probably go to bed soon.
Okay. Okay, well, moving on to consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of approval of the minutes of February 7th, 2023, reappointment of Anne Marie Stewart to a 4-year term on the Manassas Park Library Advisory Board to commence on March 18th, 2023, and expire on March 17th, 2027. Approval of a resolution supporting the city's U.S. Department of Transportation RAISE grant application and authorizing the acceptance of any funding received if the application is approved. Approval of an authorization for the city manager to sign the necessary contractual documents for the purchase of a Freightliner M2 106 dump truck from the XL Truck Group for an amount not to exceed $192,330, with payments to begin no sooner than July 1st, 2023. And adoption of the corrected FY23 budget amendment ordinance, the public hearing having already been held on February 7th, 2023. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. There is no unfinished business, so moving on to new business, 9A is participation in proposed settlement of opioid-related claims.
Good evening. You may remember that the governing body had to do something similar for the first round of opioid settlement funding. We have to have the additional resolution because we've now brought in some additional folks that have reached settlement. So there's really not a whole lot more to add other than Each one of these companies has reached agreement, and then we will get a piece of this based upon a formula that's the same formula as before. We weren't one of the participating localities that were suing, so we don't get the higher amount. This is just pretty much money that's given to us for agreeing to participate.
Okay.
So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer
Other
them.
comments for city attorney? Questions or comments? Okay, apparently not. Thank you. So the staff recommended motion is that the governing body adopt a resolution that approves of the city's participation in the proposed settlement of opioid-related claims against Teva, Allergen, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, and their related corporate entities as presented.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 9B, Manassas Park City Library Policy. Hi, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Governing Body. Is it just on
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Is it just on the screen? You want to open up the document itself, or? If needed.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
If needed, I can pull on the phone drive.
All right, so the policies that we are addressing today is just our rules of conduct. There's a couple of grammatical changes in there, and then in addition to adding what the process is in case someone's privileges were modified or suspended, we wanted them to know what the process is for appeal, and that was added into the policies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
Really quick, was this in response to an event or just preventive?
Preventive. We're getting busier, so we want to make sure that all of our bases are covered.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Carrera, you?
Yeah, I have a question, is if it's possible to add political affiliation, I'd also like to add trade. Trade also covers what's common in a lot of states, which they're passed, it's the Crown Act. It's really a cultural issue for hair. Specifically, it's targeted for people of African-American cultural hair, which have been targeted for discrimination, and that's been common. They pass laws to protect that from discrimination. So I was considering, could we add political affiliation and trait as part as a protected class?
You can do it if you would like. It's your policy. I would suggest that if you want to do that, we could maybe, as I indicated in an email earlier, we can refer to the Virginia Human Rights Act, and we could also then incorporate language that makes it clear that anything that violates the U.S. Constitution as well, because much of what you're talking about would otherwise fall within those categories. So, for example, the hair issue, I think that is something that would be protected for as under race or ethnicity, if it's associated with a particular race or ethnicity. As far as the affiliation, the First Amendment allows you to affiliate with whomever you want.
Right.
But it might be good to point it out just so that there's not an overly zealous individual that.
That's my purpose for it, because California and Maryland have gone further to protect that, because there's been issues and so that's the only reason my concern is. I don't know if others support that or have a comment on it. I don't know.
I don't see the harm in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, more protections, the better.
Yes, absolutely. Belt and suspenders, as city attorney would say.
Yes. So would you like me to just come up with some language that incorporates what we talked about, or is there a specific language that Maryland, California use that you're?
Trait, Councilmember Moore, are you familiar with the Crown Act?
I'm not.
Okay, it's trade. It's for more cultural.
Okay.
And it protects cultural.
I'll tell you what, I'll look it up and do a little research and bring some language. I'll email it to you. I know what your intent is. And so, if you're inclined to approve this tonight, you could just say, as presented, subject to final city attorney review, and then I'll go ahead and adopt or change as necessary.
Thank you.
That sounds good. Okay.
Great.
One question.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So the library board approved this, and was it unanimous?
Yes, there's some slight changes from the original, but it was subject to city attorney review, and that's where the slight changes came from.
Fantastic. Looks good.
Yes, go ahead.
I think one of the revisions was regarding no scooters or bicycles inside.
Correct.
Do we have a plan to put like a bike rack outside? Do
there
you see
are
people riding bikes?
Bike racks outside.
There are on the plaza, yeah.
Yes.
Right in front of the building?
I'd have to double check, but I know
I-
they were required by the development to have some bike racks out here.
And then the second part for that is, do we have a space for lockers?
For,
If they can't leave a scooter outside, put in a locker maybe?
currently, we don't have any lockers. As for space, that's something we'd have, a larger conversation we'd have to have.
Okay.
Just to that comment, lockers could be a slippery slope.
Yes.
What people store in them, how long they keep in them, and things of that nature, just something to think about when you're thinking about lockers.
Yeah,
I was
I'm
on
not
the
sure.
board in Berkeley, and
not sure we have the
had a
space.
terrible issue with lockers.
Yes.
That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. Comments or questions? No? Okay.
Mayor, I have just one more comment. I just want to let you know, so on the, it's on page 34 of your packet at the top there. I just want to make it clear. So it says violation of these rules of conduct may result in the patron's library privileges being modified or revoked, but we forgot to include suspended in there. So I'll just be throwing that in there as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no other further comments or questions, staff recommended motion is that the governing body approve the changes to the Manassas Park Central Library's rules of conduct regarding the modification, suspension, or revocation of library services as presented and subject to final review by city attorney.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to third amendment to the mowing agreement with WeWorka.
Good evening, Mayor Rischel, Vice Mayor Mensing, members of council, residents, staff, and guests. I'm Calvin Odell, the Director of Community Development. As the governing body may remember, last year we had asked WeWorka for a proposal to include the City Hall landscaping right around budget season. Jay Swisher and I sat down with them and asked them to put a proposal together to maintain the landscape and flowers and everything around this building and around the new downtown. But because the development didn't actually become ours, or City Hall didn't become ours until summer, we wound up bringing you this agenda item, I believe in August, and it was just for the very end of the season. So we work a bids jobs for an entire, season year from spring until fall, winter. So we only did a partial year over the summer, and now we have to once again revisit that. And included in that was the addition of the cul-de-sacs that we decided to defer actual demolition of until we were having street projects, resurfacing projects that included those streets with the cul-de-sacs. So before you tonight is just an agenda item to essentially do a third amendment to our agreement with WeWorka to add back in another year of City Hall, downtown landscaping, and the actual cul-de-sac islands for maintenance, mowing, and tree care. This comes between two general ledger numbers. That's facilities, contract services, and streets contract services, because a portion of this is actual facilities, landscaping around City Hall. A portion of it is actual street right-of-way.
Okay.
Any questions?
Comments or questions? Yes, Councilmember Moore.
Calvin, thank you for the report. It's important that we hire these people to maintain our new downtown. But I can't help but point out the fact that we've talked about, and I think you're very supportive of the idea of seasonal employees for Public Works. We're going to spend $70-something thousand for this contract, which is great. But it would have been nice, and I still think it's nice, if we can develop a program where during our summer, our youth can be hired to do some of this seasonal work and give them seasonal employment or summer employment. Just, again, another push for your department to be able to hire seasonal employees that I think could probably do some of this work if we had, in the seasonal sense of the growing season in the city. So just something to think about.
I agree. Some of the issues, though, with turf care, where they're they're actually applying fertilizer and treatment, weed killers, things like that. We only have one staff member who was very lucky to actually get a license to be able to apply any sort of chemical, and it still only applies to city-owned property, not public right-of-way. So that portion will probably always need consultation and contractual assistance. I'm not sure seasonal flowers, perhaps that's something that we could look into taking over. But there's also an element here of them inspecting trees for disease and damage, trying to isolate any disease and damage they see in the planted beds. So things like that, these are landscape professionals, whereas we're not. And the big thing we ran into with mowing on our own was the surprise equipment wear and tear and costs. You think you know that a mower is going to last a certain number of years, but they take quite a beating when you use them every day. And we wound up spending quite a bit of money on weed eaters, lawn mowers, the zero-turn mowers, and it was pretty tricky to keep stocked. It seemed like there was always some new mowing equipment on the agenda all the time. So those are considerations, where we had priced it out using full-time labor. It was very much more expensive than using someone like WeWorka, but we've never really done the experiment pricing it out with part-time seasonal employees to see how that would actually work.
Appreciate it.
Just a reminder, we have the budget for it as well, and we've been trying to recruit part-time employees this summer. Hopefully we can get some, like you said, some younger employees who can support, not necessarily with this, but other cleanup operations that we have across the city as well.
Yeah, the Clean Cities program that Laura's doing.
But we've struggled mightily with just in general recruitment, and part-time public works crew has been really difficult to
Did we
recruit.
recruit at the high school?
I don't know specifically where public works is recruiting. Calvin, do you know?
For seasonal?
No, we have not tried to recruit at the high school, but this would be the time.
Exactly. Think about summer employment. Excellent. Okay, very good.
Any ideas how difficult that might be?
To coordinate with the high school, I wouldn't think it would be difficult. We have a pretty good relationship with the school administration.
No, I mean the willingness of the young people to,
That's always the challenge, right?
getting people to turn out and do work. Yeah, okay.
What's the minimum wage in the city now? 15, 14, 12?
Not yet. Jay, do you remember, is it 12 right now? 11?
Sorry, what was your question?
The minimum wage in Virginia.
It's 11 right now, but it keeps ramping up, where it'll be 15, I want to say, by 2025. Do you remember, Jay? 2026.
Okay, thanks.
Could you please repeat that again? By
Yeah,
what?
so by 2026, it'll be $15, the minimum wage.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Any other comments or questions for Calvin? Okay, well, with that, staff recommended motion is that the governing body approve and authorize the city manager to sign an amendment to the mowing and lawn care services agreement with WeWorka Construction Management Incorporated that modifies the scope of work to include service for the new city hall and the roundabout islands in the cul-de-sacs of Golf Court, Primrose Lane, and Rosebud Court as presented and subject to final review by city attorney.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 9D, replacement of storm sewer at 9119 Industry Drive. You're still up, Calvin.
Yes, ma'am. So we've all seen the pictures, and I think we've heard the story a lot about the corrugated metal pipe issues in the city of Manassas Park. Mosby Culvert was a corrugated metal culvert. The Russia Branch culverts, all 6 barrels of them that pass under Manassas Drive and Railroad Drive, all of those are corrugated metal culverts. And as I've spelled out in the CIP, and you've seen pictures, there are sinkholes developing all throughout the Connor Center because the Connor Center was primarily constructed with corrugated metal culvert. So instead of reinforced concrete pipe like the city's PFM now calls for, when that subdivision was constructed, it was primarily corrugated metal. And so when I show you those little pictures of a little bit of asphalt falling into a hole or a fence post sinking into a hole, you're really just seeing what's happening on the surface. Very similar to what we saw at Mosby, where the road just slightly dips a little. But when we televise underneath, in this particular instance at 9119 Industry Drive, the 400 feet of corrugated, 36-inch corrugated metal culvert was unsalvageable. So this project would replace 400 linear feet of 36-inch corrugated metal culvert with 400 linear feet of 36-inch reinforced concrete pipe, which would meet the city's PFM. We put this out to bid to several companies, and All Site Contracting came back the lowest. Their bid was $124,646. But we are asking to add a 20% contingency for unforeseen variables in there, which would bring the total up to $149,575.20. This would be coming out of stormwater capital maintenance. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Calvin. In section 2, how was the final completion date arrived at of June 30th?
To align primarily with the fiscal year, and if the contractors didn't tell us that they were going to need longer than that, we would have left it at that.
Okay, okay. Because I'm thinking you're going to want them to start as soon as possible when the
Right.
ground thaws, so.
Yeah. We
Theoretically,
haven't had much
they
of a
could be
winter,
done.
so we're hopeful that they can get started very quickly, because the ground freeze has not been an issue. We actually have been able to complete the pour on the other culverts, the rehabs of Railroad Drive. I don't know if anybody's actually looked down in there, but they look very nice. That's very exciting. Very relieved to see those culverts completely reconditioned and in time. But I don't believe that they'll have any issue getting started right away, and I don't think
Okay.
that it'll take them very long.
Probably they'll be done before
Yeah.
June 30th. Okay.
Exactly.
For section 21, are the insurance amounts listed standard?
Yeah, those are our standard insurance amounts.
Okay. And in section 23, can you give us an example of the circumstances that would necessitate the governing body designating a hearing officer?
I can handle that. Okay, so the hearing officer is something that we add to our contracts to allow for, it's almost like a grievance procedure for employees. It allows us to resolve issues that arise before it goes to litigation. So the hearing officer would be somebody the governing body would appoint. We've never done this before because we're usually able to resolve it before it ever gets to that level. But it's just one additional step that is put in the contracts. One example would be, let's say we had to terminate the agreement and they felt that they did not violate the terms of the contract. However, the city manager reviewed it. He said, yeah, I agree with the termination. They could then appeal that, and so the hearing officer would then be appointed to objectively look at it, because you never know. I mean, there might be some contractor that people just don't like, and we have to be able to step back and make sure we're not treating that person or that contractor unfairly. So that's just an additional level.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Doesn't have to be in there. We can remove it if you don't like it, but.
No, I just wanted an example, that's
Okay.
all. Okay, thank you.
Is that, okay, good.
Comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
Really quick, how many more culverts do we have left?
So, in the Connor Center or throughout the city?
Throughout the city?
So major culverts that are conveying actual streams or state bodies of water underneath of roadways. So Russia Branch under Manassas Drive is out to bid. Those bids are due back in just a week or so, I believe. Once those are underway, that will simply leave the only things remaining on our CIP schedule was Manassas Drive at Public Works and Kirby Street, which is Mosby 2.
Okay.
Kirby Street is simply a bottom condition reconditioning. So the pipe itself is not deforming massively. It doesn't need complete reconditioning, but the bottom is eroded away. So we have to go in and do a bottom condition repair. That'll be very short and sweet. The pipes that go under Manassas Drive in front of the Public Works building are much smaller than the pipes we're dealing with here or the pipes we were dealing with at Mosby 1 or 2. And those pipes are not in bad shape. You also just use those to run a bypass through when they did their force main improvements. So we're very familiar with the condition of those. The Connor Center, though, is the only place in the city, the only subdivision, where corrugated metal pipe was the standard for stormwater conveyance. So those pipes in the Connor Center are not actually conveying streams, but they are conveying surface water that's then concentrated and run through our storm system.
Okay.
So that is pretty much the only place in the city where it was okay to just go ahead and install corrugated metal storm pipe instead of concrete. Everywhere else in the city where you're conveying surface waters in our controlled system, you're doing it through concrete.
Okay. So we have roughly 3 left.
Yes.
Okay.
3 major culverts, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Follow up? No?
No, thank
Any
you.
other comments or questions? Okay. The recommended motion is that the governing body approve and authorize the city manager to sign an agreement with All Site Contracting to replace the 36-inch corrugated metal storm sewer at 9119 Industry Drive with reinforced concrete pipe at a cost not to exceed $149,575.20 as presented and subject to final review by city attorney.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you.
And moving on to governing body budget priorities discussion.
Okay. Vice Mayor Menson, can you see that?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Perfect. Okay, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the governing body. What you have before you is the priorities list. We try to consolidate as best we could the different priorities that came in. Our objectives this evening are to do 3 things. Remove items that you believe shouldn't be on there, consolidate, right? A lot of these sound very similar, so I really need to get kind of final language. For example, cut real estate tax rates by 1 cent, cut real estate tax rates by 3 cents. What's your final one, or do you want to keep all 3 and then just rank them, right? So that's an example of consolidation. And then addition, was there anything that you felt was left out that's kind of a big priority? So what we'll do is we'll just go down the order, and you guys can tell me, again, this is your priority list, so how you want to consolidate, how you want to remove, what you want to add, and I'll go ahead and do that real time for you all.
Okay. I would start by suggesting that of the first 3, maybe roll number 3 into the first one by saying diversify our revenue stream through business recruitment, and then that would accommodate perhaps the third one. What does everybody think?
Sounds good.
Ms. Mayor, can I make a suggestion? I think we all agree that we want economic development across the city, and I think the city manager's done a great job with the primary focus downtown and trying to attract a lot of businesses here as an opportunity. And I think you provided a lot of options, and I think in general, we all agree we want economic development. I don't know if it's so much of a ranking here. I think it's whatever the city manager can provide, as long as it's a focus on the existing, completing the downtown, and then anything that comes about around across the city versus ranking them. I seem them very similar to each other, all of them.
Well, that's what.
But we have to
We're gonna
compare them to
collapse
the
them.
other priorities on the sheet. to
Right.
Determine if economic development is as high as pay raises for employees or as some of the other things that are listed on these sheets.
Right.
So we need to have it on here.
I
No,
think,
no, I agree, but I think, I'm talking about just the first section, consolidating, like the mayor said, but just generally,
Oh, I
I don't know
agree.
if, I don't know if we need to rank all
Mayors.
4, I don't know.
No, I think she's collapsing them so that there'll be 2.
Right.
Hub zones and economic development.
So do you guys want to get rid of this one, focus on economic development
Can you
opportunities?
speak into your?
Options.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think.
Do you
the
wanna get rid of
mayor's,
this one?
Consolidation of the 3 into
Right.
one made sense.
Okay, and
Right,
just
'cause
keep the hub zone as a separate one.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so now we only have 2 for economic development. Is that good? Okay, so moving on to balanced slicing of the pie.
Okay. Do we really need to call out the real estate tax rates, or can we say something like, reduce real estate taxes by an amount consistent with careful budgeting? And then have city manager give us a recommendation, and we say, yes, that's fine, or that's not enough, or whatever.
I like the second item where it says reduce property tax rates significantly without harming core services. So that's saying that we should reduce it, but not hurt our core services. And then the
reduce-
city manager would come back with the rate.
And the goal right now in our long-term kind of strategic plan is for every 2.5% assessment increase, or if it increases by 2.5%, we reduce by a penny. And then beyond that, again, we try to reduce as much as we can. So that's the goal again, is to do the same thing again this year.
I'm a little cautious about this, maybe because I've been here for a while. And in my lifetime, I've seen where we have cut the tax rate because the economy was good, and then the economy, the bottom fell out, and then we had to raise the tax rate back up. So I really prefer to go with the mayor's suggestion, because that gives us the latitude right now of taking a look at the budget. And depending on the budget and depending on what the economic forecast, which we know is not, is not an exact science, but using those measures, we can make a judgment that not only helps us now, but also doesn't put us in a predicament down the future.
But doesn't that say that in point 1, reduce without significantly harming core services?
Want me to just delete significantly, or?
To me, but core services is not everything. Core services, to me, is just like the bare necessities. You're looking at public safety, you're looking at schools, the bare minimum of running the city. So to me, though, that's 2 separate things.
The only thing I would point out is that every survey of our residents, reducing property tax has been the #1 item listed by our residents.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying, I want to give us the latitude, once we see the numbers, to make a decision.
And I think this would give us a latitude. I mean, the city manager is going to give us a number that he thinks will,
Well, do we even,
operate the city.
do we even need the word significantly? How about reduce property tax rate without harming the core services, and, well, have that be its own, and then.
I like that.
Without affecting, see, Councilmember Hampton is right. The core services are, it's a very narrow slice of the city. We need to do some hiring, for example, in Public Works, because there's a great need. We need COLAs for employees, so there's a lot to consider.
Ms. Mayor, I agree with your first statement, what you first said, that depending on the revenues that come in, at that point, the city manager can make a recommendation.
Consistent with
Yeah,
careful budgeting
yeah,
and incoming revenue.
yes,
How
I
about
agree.
that? Okay.
So what was the language?
Does everybody agree with that? Is that okay?
What was the language?
Yeah, I think Councilmember Javed wants to comment.
What was the language? I didn't get the language.
Neither did I.
Yeah.
Careful planning of revenues coming in, your recommendation.
Okay, so reduce property tax rate,
I'm sorry, I
parentheses.
can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm asking for the language. We deleted significantly, so I'm
An
asking for
amount
what?
consistent with careful budgeting and incoming revenue.
Okay. Can you repeat? Consistent with?
Careful budgeting.
Careful budgeting, okay.
And incoming revenue.
And then X, the part about core services, because we're going to take care of core services regardless.
Okay, so you don't want that in
Aren't we?
parentheses, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Like this?
And I think Councilmember.
Yeah, I
Javed-
was just saying, what was the reduction? We were down to $3.
Well, so this is saying property tax rate, so to your point, there's 2 property tax rates. There's the real estate and the personal property.
Right,
So
just the
last year,
personal, yeah.
personal went from 350 down to 3.
3. So we
Yeah.
reduced it by 50 cents, basically.
We did reduce it by 50
And
cents.
when was the last time prior to that? When did we reduce it?
That I don't know.
So this is like basically the first reduction in property
At least
tax.
from my time here, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So do we want to call out? I don't think we're going to be able to reduce personal property tax rates this year, because I did hear from the Commissioner of Revenue that
that's
the
what-
large assessment increases that we saw last year
Right.
are starting to dip again as the market balances. So I think personal property tax at the most is going to stay flat. It's really the real
That's
estate
what
tax.
I was going to
yeah.
suggest, is that we do not touch personal property tax at the moment.
So you want to just reduce real estate tax rate?
Real estate tax, yeah, we touch on that, but personal property tax, we did a 50 cents reduction. And the email we all got from the Commissioner of Revenue about the assessments going down, I don't think we're ready to reduce the property tax for personal yet. Real estate tax, that's a different story.
I think number one is talking about real estate tax.
Well, it's
It
saying
It
property.
should say that.
It says property.
It says property, it should probably
Yeah,
say real estate.
Real estate, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Real estate.
Well,
because that's the one that's 140
no,
That's 145 right
That's a
down.
real estate,
Yeah, that's the one you're talking about, right?
Well, I was talking about the property, the $3 for the property tax.
Yeah, and you're saying the same thing. Yeah, so you're saying just call out real estate because that's the one that we actually have wiggle room. The personal property, we don't have wiggle
Yeah,
room.
so take out
Yeah.
personal property,
And
real
the-
estate.
And that's what this
That's
did.
what he just did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
real estate now.
Okay,
But that's a good catch, though, 'cause
Yeah.
it-
right,
So you want me to delete these next two then?
Yes.
yes.
right. and
Actually,
then
next three, right?
Consolidate all
Three.
three of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Delete.
All right. All right, so continue focus. So these next three or these next few are very similar. I don't know how one is focus on, these next two are really market gaps. I think those could be consolidated into one.
Yep.
I just didn't know what the phrasing, you want me to just delete this one and keep the first one?
Yes, because it says more.
Okay, perfect. That's easy. Then the next three talk about COLAs. So I don't know how you guys want to phrase the COLA.
Can we do the COLAs just like we did with the pay raises could you go up one real quick? To the extent we're able to do so?
Yeah,
Once again, give us that latitude.
yeah, that's excellent.
Like that?
Yeah.
Oh, but delete market cap.
Okay. Council member, or Vice Mayor Mensing, do you have any comments? Okay.
Do you want me to ask her again?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
This one did have, and I don't know why it got cut off, my apologies. It did say, increase city staff minimum starting salary for one FTE to 40,000. So that's slightly
you-
different from a COLA.
Can you,
I'm sorry. Yeah, so this one did have an addition. It says increase the city staff minimum starting salary for one FTE to 40,000. That would impact 3 employees. So that is a real policy proposal.
it would impact what?
3 employees.
3 employees, okay.
And that was my recommendation. I believe we have to be able to pay fairly, competitively. And I understand it only impacts, you said 3 employees, so.
Yeah. So it wouldn't cost that much is what I'm saying, so.
Okay.
Do you want to keep that there, just delete the COLA part?
Yes.
Yeah, because we already have the COLA.
Okay, all right. All right. Okay. And then, I think all the other ones are different. Are there any changes you guys want to make to the balance slicing of the pie beyond what we just did?
I just have a general question. For the real estate tax, what is Herndon at?
So Herndon and Vienna, not sure if they're going to propose increases this year. From what I heard, they're going to keep it flat, but Fairfax County is going to reduce. So that means Herndon and Vienna therefore go down because the residents there pay the county. And so their tax rate combined last year, they were at 142. So we were 3 cents higher. But now if Fairfax County drops, then their tax liability will drop.
Fairfax
as well.
County presented their budget today. They kept it flat. at
They kept it
1.5.
flat?
They did
Okay.
keep it flat. It was
So that
this morning.
means if Vienna and Herndon keep theirs flat, then, combined, they'd be at 142. So if we hopefully can get to that, then we can now say we don't have the highest.
Right, that's why
tax
I think we
burden.
should strive for, is to
Okay.
get that 1 cent, I know,
Difference?
yeah, difference. So we
It's
could.
3 cents right now.
3
We're at
cents.
Oh, 3 cents
145. Yeah,
difference. Okay.
yeah. So it's all going to depend on our assessments,
Yeah.
but that's been my goal.
Just something to
because-
strive for, like,
Yeah.
as a goal, so.
It's a good goal.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Moving right along.
Okay, so no other changes
I
then?
just have a question. The last one, vocational, isn't that really a school policy, though? Is that something the schools have to provide through their operations? I'm asking you.
Yeah, it certainly is a responsibility of schools. I think,
What would be our role? In other words, what would be our role when it says?
well, I
continue
guess
work-
vocational pathways, that would involve the city, because they were going to need support for that if we're going to fund their facility rehabilitation for those purposes. So I think that's what's probably meant. I don't know, I don't remember whose priority this was, but I want to say that's probably what was meant by certification of vocational. So there's different job certifications as well, but all of that would require governing body support.
I think-
Yeah.
Because
think before
we provide funding every year, and then they choose how they want to spend it.
Right.
So the funding right now, though, is set per the current K through 12 model of college prep. So if they want to change that, which is the conversations we've been having with that, either they need to cut from their current programs to shift, to your point, or we would provide them the funding. Some of those are going to be capital, though, and they don't receive a lot of, really any. Last year, they received capital support from the state. That was a one-time thing. So really, capital ends up falling back on the city as a responsibility for major capital projects like that. But certainly, that'd be a conversation to have with the school board in terms of what they could do to try to fund as much as that they could within their budget.
And I think even before that, we'd probably have to see a plan from them.
Yes, yes.
I mean, before we give any money.
No.
But again, this is just a ranking for us to rank.
That's a ranking, that's
We
correct.
shouldn't eliminate a person's suggestion unless it's a duplicate.
Yeah, that's real.
If you
Yeah,
don't
that's
like
great.
it, don't rank it.
Okay, so moving along, community maintenance. These are different enough, I think. Capitalize this C here. Was there any changes you guys wanted to make on this one? I
When
think
it
maybe these could
says
be combined.
for- Like the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, perhaps we could combine those by adjusting the 6th, number 6, to continue beautification efforts, and then parentheses enclosed grants, light contests, cleanup, cleanup campaigns, and anything else that anyone can think of.
So you're looking at 1, 2,
I
3,
like
4,
that idea.
5, 6. So like line, let's see, underneath code enforcement, so like 19 through
19, 20, 21,
22.
this one and this one. Yeah, so pretty
Yeah.
much all of these
Yeah,
can consolidate into one.
I have no problem with that.
Is that fine? The way it's written now, 21?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So delete this one, and the two below.
I'm fine with that. Well, everybody else is fine with that.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Cleanup campaigns and other,
And other, okay.
And I just have a
because
question.
we don't want to limit ourselves.
The parking signs, they've already been approved and in the works. Is that still gonna need to be ranked as a priority? I mean,
It's already in the budget, so I don't think it's necessary.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's already budgeted, it's already approved, we have plans to work it. I don't think we need to rank this as a priority. It's up to the body, but it's just kind of redundant, I think.
To that point, the staffing for parking enforcement, when that kind of go up, well, no, I guess we didn't really talk about. Will that kind of fall underneath balancing, slicing of the pie? Or no?
Well, this one was called out as a separate, which are really,
Okay.
to have us focus on community maintenance issues. So we have separate goals in the strategic roadmap, along with, parking enforcement and code enforcement as well. But I think to Councilmember Javet's point, this has already been funded. So I'm not sure it's really, should be on this list. Yeah, 'cause
Whose suggestion was that? I mean, I wouldn't want to take it off
Sure.
unless we had their permission to take it off.
I don't remember whose that was, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So keep it?
If no one's willing to take ownership.
I believe it was my suggestion, and I just wanted to kind of have it on there in case there was anything else, any other something that we don't know, unforeseen
Right.
obstacles that would come up.
So if additional
Wanted to make
funding
sure
is
this a
required.
priority to go into effect this fall.
Okay. So I guess if additional funding would be required, I guess. that'd be- Okay.
No, by all means, leave it on.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Then any other changes with community maintenance? I put the solid waste one here because that one had really a lot to do with kind of the cardboard boxes, and we're already having internal staff conversations on that one as well,
Okay.
on different solutions. But that's why I kept it on community maintenance. So, is that okay to keep it in that section?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Infrastructure.
Okay.
A lot of these again sound very similar, so I think they can be consolidated like we did last year. I think the first one really covers most everything in terms of infrastructure, so I think you could delete the next two, the road and sidewalk repair and significantly increased spending. I think this
Okay.
bullet here covers these two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Let me just share my thoughts on the skateboard park. You know, we all get calls. The calls I primarily get about infrastructure deal with filling potholes, paving, sidewalk, curb and gutter. You know, I think we need to focus on maintenance and what we have already before we, you know, focus more on installing more infrastructure that's going to require maintenance. You know, I've walked all the streets and the sidewalks in the city more than once, and I can tell you, there's a lot of need out there. Uneven sidewalks is the tip of the iceberg. There's potholes, there's curbing and gutter and, you know, all kinds of stuff, and we simply do not have enough funding to spend on what we really need to do. So I would caution everyone before rating this highly to think in terms of what we need to do for our existing infrastructure before we add more, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So anyway, just food for thought.
Any other changes on infrastructure?
Yeah, I have one change. I think I don't know. I saw somewhere EV charging stations.
Yes. Those are under the miscellaneous.
Miscellaneous. I was thinking maybe move that to infrastructure, right? Because
I agree.
yeah, I mean that's going to be
So
basically
the-
infrastructure,
Yeah.
and I think it's a good opportunity, especially in our garage, that the VRE garage, maybe put two EV stations down there that the city owns, you know, to get that initiative jump started.
Yeah, we did ask them actually to build that, at least on the level that we
Yeah.
fully control. We did ask them to provide that capability so that we could go ahead and install that.
Excellent,
Yeah, on that one.
So that's
Let
my only
me-
suggestion is maybe we move that to infrastructure instead of miscellaneous.
Okay, but I would probably pull out then the charging stations from the fleet, because fleet is not infrastructure. But so you want me just to cut this part?
And move that to
And move that up
infrastructure and
there.
keep, convert fleet to EV and miscellaneous, that's fine.
Does that work for everybody?
Isn't that a part of our broader
I
plan
couldn't
for?
hear what you said.
isn't-
Can you
is-
say it again, Hasib?
To move EV charging stations to infrastructure, and then to convert fleet to electric vehicles on miscellaneous.
Keep it in miscellaneous. Okay, yeah. Thank
I thought that would be part
you.
of
I just
our,
want to make sure I understood what you said. Yeah.
I thought that would be part of the green plan, part of the entire green plan. That's why I thought we had separated it to.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my rationale, because it's the miscellaneous starts with
Yeah.
create the green plan, then I put all the other things that were
Right.
part of that green plan right underneath that, like the facilities and the fleet.
Exactly.
But it's really your call, how you guys want to do this. You guys want to keep it in miscellaneous or move it up to infrastructure?
What was the question?
So do we keep it in miscellaneous or do we move it up to infrastructure? Miscellaneous is where we have the creation of the green plan and then all the other environmental initiatives is all under miscellaneous? Or do you guys want to create an environmental category?
That's hard because we.
May I comment?
Are we even going to, are we going to be able to fund the consultant for the green plan this year? Do you have any guess?
That's going to be your all's discretion if we want to. That's the whole point of this exercise.
But whenever we do something, we have to give up something else because we don't have infinite resources.
Alana would like to make some comments.
Yeah, Mayor Alana tried to make a comment.
Vice
I'm
Mayor.
sorry. Vice Mayor Mensing?
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to say, I think if we add it to the infrastructure, it might get lost because we are so focused on doing roads and sidewalks, and they do need such attention that I think that we should leave it where it is. just so that it doesn't get lost along a lower number.
I'm sorry.
She said leave it underneath as is, leave it as is.
Thank you, thank you.
And that would be my recommendation, because this is a very new technology. And maybe not on the West Coast, maybe not, but here in the North, and the East Coast, it very much is. So I'd rather just leave it here, and,
Yes.
and to
Yeah.
Councilmember's mentioning point, let's focus on, leave the infrastructure, focusing on the infrastructure.
Okay. Everyone,
Yeah, that's fine, whatever the majority wants.
yeah,
I don't mind.
yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to financial management. So we have 3 that have to do with reserves. So I'm not sure if you want to consolidate them. At least these 2 should be consolidated, definitely. So
You lump them to one.
I think percentages should be taken out, the GOFA recommendation, and just talk about having reserves.
Yeah, yeah, reserves commensurate with our ability
Yeah.
to do so.
Yeah.
the only reason why I kept these separate, because people
Yeah.
could ask, hey, why don't you just combine them? One says contribute, one says maintain, right?
It's semantics.
Well, maintenance assumes that you're already there. The other one's saying you have to still build up. So I'd recommend contribute.
So do I.
Okay.
Can you please say that again, Laz?
Yeah, so I kept them separate because this one assumes, we're already there. When it says maintain, this one says we need to still get there, contribute. And so I recommend keep contribute.
Yeah.
Okay.
And get rid of the first one and the
Yeah.
others.
Okay. And the rest of these are different. Okay, these 2 are very similar. This one just specifically had some call-outs, but these could very well, I could easily delete this one.
Yeah.
Everyone agree?
Yeah.
Just this generic continue to look for grants?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And in fact that it says et cetera.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Twice, or maybe that was my typo.
It was probably your typo.
Let me delete that. Et cetera, et cetera.
Or unless you watch The Princess Bride before you type it, so.
I'll say we're reaching the point, and you're going to hear at the next meeting, our fire department just want a huge grant as well. We are reaching the point of administrative overload when it comes to managing these grants and all the different reporting requirements to the federal government. So I will caveat with that. So again, good news. Again, you'll hear that at the next meeting, but just letting you all know now we've won.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah, it's a massive grant. I want to say it's over $2.5 million that we won for the fire department. So again, Merchant McDyer is just more than paid for itself. So the police have won major, fire has won major. Now we really, again, public community development with everything we've got with Route 28. So every department's kind of winning something, but that's an intense burden on the finance department and the administrative capacity of each department as well, with the different reporting requirements we have for the federal government. So while we will continue to look, we have to be strategic in what we have to prioritize for grants, and really what we're going to be moving on to now is really focusing on stream restoration. That has to be the next big one that we have to get some grant funding for.
And we had a grant person. Are we still trying to fill that position?
No, we've moved a financial person for that role. So we do have someone to fulfill that role. Yeah. Okay. Service delivery. A lot of these sound similar as well. Some of them call out specific departments. Some of them add some additional components to it as well. Some of them are already funded. So not sure how. I have a typo here. How you guys want to consolidate these?
Well, can we take the 4 and 5?
Combine.
Yeah,
You want me to just keep the one that has and use seasonal employees?
yeah,
Okay.
if everybody else is okay with that.
Yes.
Okay. I think I may have parking officer twice. Give me 1 second.
You've got it in service delivery and underneath community maintenance.
Yes, let me delete that one. Okay.
And I just have a question on I think it was the service and program efficiencies. What kind of programs or activities that would be eliminated and are no longer priorities.
I put that out there. I modeled another jurisdiction. It's just to look at any possibilities that are one-time money that may not be continued or just periodically reviewed. So it's just more of a possibility if there had to be something that just come in, just more of a notice more than a priority. Just if you have something that's ending, it's sunsetting, that you would just inform us of what is sunsetting. That's what that main priority was. So that's not really a budget, it's just probably a notification of what's, if anything, sunsetting with different grants or different, any funding from the state.
We want to change the language for that, to state that?
I would actually, since it's mine, I'd favor removing it as long as you just keep us informed. And you do a good job of doing that, so,
Delete?
What-
yes, it's mine.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was said?
I modeled another jurisdiction. It's just basically a recommendation of just stating if any funding is sunsetting, what those are, but it's more of just a notification that we're aware of anything that's going away.
Yeah, okay.
And then, I don't know, personally, I don't agree with no increase in the total FTEs.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either.
Commercial
you know,
revenue, because I
it's-
mean, we got code enforcement officer, we got parking enforcement,
Public Works.
public works. I mean, there's a lot of departments that need
Yes.
additional staffing.
Yes.
But it's like anything else, we just leave it in there, and we talked earlier, if we don't like it, we
Okay.
rank it low.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other ones to consolidate here?
The third one seems to capture increasing the important ones. So it would capture Public Works, it would capture Fire Department, or do we want to call those out specifically?
I think we want to keep them out specifically.
Keep it specific? Okay.
And then we also have parking officer staffed under this. and
Yeah,
we also-
I deleted.
Oh,
Yeah, I
you
deleted that one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's redundant.
At least for this one, the second one, the nuance here was it says staff education development. So do we want to delete at least the first part and just keep staff? Because we mentioned that in two other parts.
What was the option?
So just to keep staff education and development, since you're talking about hiring other FTEs in the other bullets?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because that was the
one.
nuance for that one.
Yeah.
And the first one says for all departments. The second one talks about those that are understaffed and on freezing. So they had slight variations, which is why I kept them. And then the fourth one said really focus on public works, and then after that, focus on fire. So I think the rest of these are different enough to keep.
Yeah, okay. Did we?
Okay. Any other questions on that one, or move to miscellaneous? Okay.
I had a question about improved customer service, because that doesn't necessarily mean staff. That could be software, that could be training. So,
Smiling more?
smiling more, right? So I'm just not sure, does it belong under service delivery and staffing, or is it more under community? Well, let me see.
Well, I guess it would
We've had customer service traditionally in service delivery.
Is that where it's normally?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where we had the
It just
customer
seems so
service.
broad, that improved customer
Yeah.
service just seems very, very broad.
It was more tactical, I think, the year before, where we had, hire the customer service representative, and that we already accomplished that. So to your point, the remaining component would be the software, if that's something you guys want to look at. I think right now we're a little,
Improved
Sure.
customer service software,
okay,
or training, or something?
maybe training for this year, because we're taking on a lot of software initiatives
Yeah,
right now.
training would make sense.
It'd be difficult, but we could certainly schedule additional training for our employees.
I have a question. Can someone give me an example of customer service software?
Yeah, it'd be software that tracks, so you can do it through GIS, right? There's different methods, so tracking kind of service requests, establishing help desk tickets, kind of like they do in the IT world, but for all customer service, following up when those issues are resolved. So it's a tracking system of all customer service
work
requests.
orders, kind of.
Exactly, like work order management, but from a centralized standpoint. Yeah.
Okay.
But again, we're taking on a lot of software initiatives right now. We're looking at it already through our GIS platform, but again, I think the training right now is more important.
Okay.
So say maybe improve customer service training,
Sure. Or improve customer service through training?
yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. Because the big thing out there right now is it customer CXG, I think it's called, or customer experience?
Yeah. There's also survey tools as
there's-
well.
That's a
That's a good
really,
experience.
it's a really big thing within certain government sectors.
And surveying is another piece, how well we're doing as well, to kind of analyze those metrics. Okay, so miscellaneous. So these two were different in terms of one, it's just saying creation of a green plan. Another one is calling out specifically to utilize a consultant for that effort. So that's why I kept it separate. But if you guys want to consolidate those, please let me know.
I personally think they should be consolidated, because I don't think staff has the bandwidth to do a complete study, the kind of a study that we're going to need the consultant to do.
Well, it's expertise as well. That's not our expertise. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
I said, you said bandwidth, but it's also, we don't have the expertise
Right,
for that, yeah.
But there's also some, I won't say free, but COG has a lot of bandwidth when it comes to creating green plans. They work with lots of cities in helping them create their green plans.
We can reach out
They
to
have
them.
technical
yeah.
assistance.
Okay. I think that probably still fall under the consultant, so maybe external support,
Yeah.
we want to change it to? And delete the first one?
Or consultant, they could be in a consulting
Okay.
capacity.
Okay, it's either whether you're paying or it's free.
External
Free, right.
support, parentheses,
Consultant.
EG, consultant.
Okay. But delete the first one then?
Yes.
Yes.
Everyone agree with that? Okay.
So does COG, they charge for it, right?
I think a lot of theirs is free, technical assistance. And they have engineers, and they help a lot of cities create their green plan
Okay.
via
But
COG.
when I was on COG, yeah, they helped Tacoma Park come out with their sustainability manager. They've come out, and the solar panels there. That's where I always bring up the solar panels, because I went out to see them, and it was amazing to see. So, yeah, they help out local jurisdictions.
My only concern is that COG would allow us to have some input into what they're going to research.
Oh, yeah, it'd be our plan. It would be our city's plan. They would have to
Oh.
fit our
Okay. okay.
values and needs.
So it
and-
would not be, say, for example, slanted towards what Arlington would need or the District of Columbia, because I've noticed that the inner ring localities do not have a sense for what we may need out here outside the Beltway.
Yeah, they tailor them for each city specifically.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Now, the next ones that have slight nuances, again, but that you can very easily consolidate. So this one says converting fleet, hold on, I skipped one here. So this one says convert fleet as it ages. The other one says just convert fleet, right? And then both of them want to install EV charging stations. But that's really the difference is one is saying as our current fleet ages out, do the replacement. The other one's just saying go ahead and do it. So one's more kind of environmentally proactive, saying just do it now, versus the other one. So again, slight nuance, but I think it's helpful to see if you guys want to keep it that way or if you want to consolidate.
Well, I think it'd be cost-effective as it ages, as opposed to converting right now.
Well, plus, we just signed, was it a year or two ago? We signed the agreement with Enterprise.
I just got a comment. So when we talk about fleet, are we, because the majority of our fleet is what, the police, emergency vehicles,
Well, yes, the patrol vehicles.
patrol vehicles, right?
Yeah.
So is there literature out there converting police vehicles to
They're
electric?
converting a lot of
Yeah.
even fire trucks now too.
California,
It's expensive,
By the year
but
2035, you can't buy a gas-powered engine.
Well, I meant like just like the police cars, because I mean, they need to be ready to go at a moment's notice. It takes about, what, 30, 45 minutes to charge?
They're making diesel trucks now that are even electric.
What, I'm sorry,
They're
Daryl?
making diesel trucks that are electric.
Yeah.
Right.
Because remember, the fire chief was in here and talking about how in California, there's a program right now of testing out electric fire trucks.
Yes. By 2035, California will not sell any gas combustion engines.
Virginia's doing the same thing. They modeled it, so Virginia will be the same way. 2035, any new vehicle must be an EV, no more gas combustion.
And the legislation to undo that didn't make it through, so it's standing firm.
Yeah. We'll
We
see
should
how
be
that.
ready.
Yeah.
We'll see how that works out.
But to your point, Laszlo, I think ages out should be left in,
Okay,
is
so
my
delete the other one
suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes
And
sense.
I think the consultant could recommend a schedule of conversion that would be in line with not only our finances, but in line with what the future market might bring. Like there's research going on now. I guess they've made some breakthroughs with hot fusion, but that's not probably going to be very practical for vehicles, but they're also working on cold fusion. I think Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, Fermi Laboratory, Georgia Tech is working on cold fusion, so who knows when the breakthrough is going to come.
So this
But
one's
we need
just,
to remain open. That's why I refer to them as zero-emission vehicles, because we don't know what the car of the future is going to be,
True.
you know?
this one's more kind of a budget, what you want the budget to look like, right, from my understanding. So I'm not sure it needs to be here. It could just be, you guys mandating that I always separate out electric vehicle versus non, but it's more of a policy versus a budget.
I'm fine with that.
Same here.
So remove that one and just, you guys agree that you want me to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
What are we doing? I couldn't hear.
Yeah, that's more of a policy direction to me to how to present the budget versus an actual
I see.
budget
I
priority.
see what you're
so.
saying. Okay.
And I got another
that's fine.
comment. So, I mean, there's two types of EV stations, right? There's public use, and then if we're actually going to convert the fleet, then it's going to be city use, right? So we should have two categories, one for public, right? Like in our garage, community center. And then as we are converting these electrical vehicles, then we need our own infrastructure for those vehicles, city-owned, right?
Yeah, so you want a separate one that just calls out for installing EV chargers across the
Stations,
city.
Right.
And then this
And I
one's
think-
more converting our fleet and add the EV charging capacity for our fleet.
For the fleet, correct.
Okay.
And I
Does that
think
make
we
sense to
could
everybody?
actually start maybe with one or two, like, without even hiring a consultant. I mean, that's something I think we have capacity to do. Putting for public use at least, you know?
We'd need the charging stations.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, yeah, for
Yeah,
the public,
okay.
yeah.
Well,
Okay.
remember he said that that's part of the incoming VRE garage, is that there would be,
Right.
I think, what, lists 2 plug stations in there.
Right.
The capacity for.
Capacity
for it.
Yeah,
So
we're trying
we-
to work with, the private sector right now for them to go ahead and install, so it actually wouldn't cost us anything and actually could potentially generate revenue for us.
Yeah.
We were evaluating that, we kind of hit a roadblock, but once I get the general services person on board, we'll hit that back up again. But that's how at least we told the VRE at that point, give us the capacity to do this later, because we agreed with you, that's a perfect location for something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And but we are looking across the city for options to present to you all about how to do this across the
Right.
city.
So I think that there should be 2 separate categories.
Okay, anything else missing?
Can't think of anything.
Okay, all right. So I'm saving this. I'm going to email you guys the updated list here. So if you guys want to rank them, send it. If you want a printed copy to do by paper, let me know. We can print that out and you can come in and fill it out.
Okay.
Or at the end of the meeting, I could just print it out as
When
well.
would you need them by?
Ideally, the first week in March would be helpful, because that's when we'll really dive deep into the budget.
So like March begins next week.
Yeah, so beginning of March, so end of the first week of March, maybe.
Okay.
So, well, I guess, I don't know if that's a middle
That would be
March, so-
a week from Friday.
Is that enough time? How much time do you guys need? March 10th, does that work?
A week is fine.
Well,
A week is fine.
A week is
week.
fine.
Okay.
I was thinking, we're having a special meeting next Tuesday, just bring them to you and hand them to you on Tuesday.
It's your discretion. Sure, that'd be
Tuesday.
helpable.
Are you talking about further
Or we can
changes?
email you it.
Yeah, you can email.
I'll email you by
Rank-
Tuesday.
My ranked sheets.
okay,
Turning it in
okay.
on Tuesday. I'll have it.
Laszlo, you're going to send us the copy after you, okay,
Yeah, and I can
Okay.
print them out tonight as well.
okay.
And then if you guys want to stick around, I can give you a hard copy if you want.
I can print it from the
Yeah.
house, don't
Okay.
worry.
All right, you're
You
cool.
just email it to us.
We don't need a.
Sounds
All right.
good.
Oh, I have one more comment. On the first page, under economic development, I know we kind of put all the economic development under one, but I think there was one downtown, and then there's one for citywide. And it was always split in the past like that. So right now, I mean, do you want to keep it as consolidated only downtown, or are we going to?
I think it says especially this year, so that just means that this is a priority, but it's not exclusive. So that's how I read this one. Because it says especially, so it's not saying exclusively.
And it says grow revenue citywide.
Yeah.
Okay.
It gives us the latitude, but also, either way, it gives us the latitude.
Okay. I think we're done.
I think it's important before we get into getting a consultant that we all be able to send you our comments and questions and things that we want the consultant to consider. Because there are issues that could affect market forces. And I think any consultant worth their weight should be able to address those issues. So I don't know, is that going to affect the scope of work?
No. Again, I'm not going to do this by myself. My plan is to bring you all the consultants for you guys to pick who you guys want to go with, and you can start having that discussion and developing the scope of work with them.
But they would need to know what our expectations are before they would even make a bid, would they not?
Well, it depends. I mean, I'm going to try to get a free one first so we can hear what they do, bring them forward to you all, and see what you guys can have the conversation with them there.
You would RFP it? Is that what you do? Just place an RFP?
Well, if it's free, if it's a COGS doing, I don't think we need to do it. We don't need to do an RFP in that situation.
I think first we need to be educated on the whole world of EV.
I'm sorry, what?
I said first we need a good education on the world of EV.
It's very,
If we can't get a free one, to your point, then we can have the conversation about what you would want in an RFP if we're issuing the bid out.
even with the free one, we would still need to make them aware what our expectations are.
That's correct. That's why I said I'm going to bring them to you all to have that conversation. Yeah.
Well, I had an opportunity, Montgomery County, I mean, I think they're setting the bar high with other jurisdictions. Their so-called green plan was they don't have a consultant. What they did was internal discussions, but they do small things like no more gas leaf blowers allowed from landscapers, right? And they gave them credit to say you can only use electric leaf blowers now. And come in, trade in your gas blower, and the city will provide you electric leaf blower, right? They put their bus transportation electric initiative, right? LED light replacement, asking homeowners to replace light bulbs, and the city will give you LED lights. Simple stuff like that doesn't need a consultant, right?
Well, can I, if I may, so remember we did the IT strategic roadmap, and why that was important, because it laid out an implementation plan with cost. And just to come up with a lot of policies without actually talking about how we implement it and what the costs are and what the staffing resources would be for those, I think won't work. I think you have to lay out what the timelines are, what the staffing would be for that, and what the CIP costs would be for all these items before we start just approving specific programs. And that's why I think we would want that
That's
from the
fine, yeah, I mean,
consultant.
fair enough. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
My only point was there's small steps we could take as a city,
Absolutely.
right? There's small
Because
steps.
EVs is just one cog in a green plan, as your point
Right.
is. So
Yeah.
while we need to educate ourselves, it's just a small piece of an overall
It's an
green,
expensive piece,
sustainable plan.
Right. I mean, there's other broader
Yeah, that's
energy efficiency,
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. but
emissions reduction.
Solar panels.
But
solar
EVs
panels.
EVs are expensive, so that's why we have to do that right.
Well, we have to do
There's a
all.
lot of money for EVs, though, in the current infrastructure bill that the president signed. Something to think about.
Very competitive.
We're big now.
Okay. Are we all A-okay with this now?
Yes.
Okay? Okay, we're good, we're good.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to number 10, that would be our second public comment time. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment? Seeing no one and hearing no one, let's move on to city manager's report.
So tonight we have two presentations for you all, the mid-year budget, or mid-year departmental presentations. The first two will be Parks and Rec and Police, and then the next meeting we'll have two additional departments. So we'll kick it off tonight with Parks and Rec.
Welcome, Jay.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the governing body. So I'll be presenting DPR's mid-year performance metrics this evening for FY23. Just real quick, I wanted to start, apologize, Mr. Palco, earlier I misspoke on the minimum wage. The state does it calendar year versus fiscal year. So for half of '23, we were at 11, but we did hit 12 in January. So, and then I just wanted to kind of give the breakdown. So in '24, we'll be at 12, and it stays at 12 for the whole year. And then in '25, we'll be in 12 for half the year, then we'll be at 1350 for the other half. And then in '26, we'll start at 1350 and we'll end at 15. So,
And does it index after that?
I think so.
I think it indexes.
Yeah, and I think they may revisit for '26. I don't know if '26 is in stone at this time. I think they left some wiggle room to kind of, reconvene, but that is the schedule as of now. So I'll go ahead and start with Parks and Rec's metrics. Once I finish up my slides, I'll hand it over to Holly so that she can come up and get everyone up to speed on the library's metrics for the first 6 months of '23. Okay, so starting in our marketing division, well, first off, let me say, we were able to secure 13 of 15 categories, year-over-year increases. On page 1 here, these are broken down into 2 different pages. So the first half, we're looking at marketing, operations, and rec services. Of the 15 categories, we fortunately only saw decreases in 2 metrics: total website visitors and rentals sold at 7 and 4% respectively. The good news with the rentals sold metric is we had a really strong January. We actually had 21 contracts executed, which compared to 10 last year. So we're already kind of back in the green in rentals sold at this point in time through the first 7 months when we include January. So we've made up ground there. And the hope is that we'll continue to kind of go in the right direction. We're especially encouraged because we had our banquet hall shut down for about a month and a half in January and part of February due to CIP project work that was getting done in there with our AV upgrade. So despite that, we're still able to kind of exceed that number and are well positioned at this point in the fiscal year. But again, if you just look at a number of the categories, we are well positioned. Mobile visitors up 18, email open rate 47, Facebook engagement is very high at 212%. Membership contracts continues to steadily improve. We've made a lot of ground there, and it's been a real kind of gradual precipitous increase in that particular category, which is a good sign. So we continue to make progress and should be on track to hit our target. And then visitation, 17% increase year over year. Wellness center volume's really been strong at 26%. And then tours and tours converted to sale at 32 and 33 respectively. So again, making good ground there. Our programs that we've implemented, it's up 65% year over year. And our senior passports are coming in at a 15% bump from the same time last year. So when we go to page 2, again, we had a pretty strong showing, not quite as good as page 1, but we did see 9 out of 12 categories with year-over-year increases. The categories where we saw drops were the indoor pool lane rental hours, Signal Hill Park field rentals, and Costello Park field rentals. With the lane rental hours, I know we've discussed that a little bit before. We did see a big jump during the pandemic and shortly thereafter. We were one of the few facilities in the region that were able to stay open, and as a result, we were able to attract a lot of jurisdictions or renters from jurisdictions that we wouldn't normally serve. So once things kind of have normalized there, those groups have gone back to their respective jurisdictions, which makes sense for them geographically. And we've kind of come back down to kind of our pre-pandemic numbers, which, we're strong, but we're kind of coming back down to reality in that regard. As far as our field rentals, Signal Hill Park, well, actually Costello Park in particular, that lies in the fact that we had a youth cricket group who we were unable to secure for this current season. They occupied several days of the week as well as a weekend day. In the previous fiscal year, that group disbanded. There just wasn't enough interest to sustain it. So we kind of saw a big drop there. We've been in talks to try to kind of, I guess, rekindle that relationship or even appeal to another adult group to try to kind of fill that void. So our hope is going into the second part of FY23 and then into FY24 that we're able to make some progress there and gain some momentum and see that number improve. As you can see with the Library Services Division, all 5 categories saw increases, all very high, with the exception of total programs. Digital and physical circulation up over 100%, new cars up about 150%. I won't go into too much detail because Holly will have a detailed kind of breakdown for the library, but you can see that pretty impressive, especially considering that about 3/4 of Q1 we were closed. As far as the library hadn't opened yet to the public. So definitely off to a good start there. And then finally wrapping up the financial section, we're about 16% over where we were this time last year in terms of cash basis revenue. And we've got a couple of thousand more dollars above and beyond where we are at the same point last year with the water park revenue as well. So next couple slides, just wanted to kind of highlight a couple of our events that we had in Q2. First and foremost, our Trunk or Treat event. That's one of our most popular, longest standing events. Had a great weather that day. About 1,200 people we approximated in attendance. That included 29 vendors, gave out a lot of candy. Actually, almost ran out of candy. It's the most candy we've ever purchased, so we will be purchasing more next year and kind of hiding it in certain spots just to have reserves on hand. But yeah, it was a great day. Very popular event. Handmade for the Holidays kind of started off our 3-day Christmas holiday event schedule. We had 3 events in succession. I think it was the first, second, third, which culminated with the light parade. But we had 19 participants there. That was a good turnout for a Thursday night. And then Friday night, we had the tree lighting with 200 attendees. That's about the most that we've ever had. Again, great weather. We were blessed with that. And then the light parade, 38 floats, good attendance as far as people watching, spectators. And I believe it's probably the best weather we've had since I've worked for the city for a light parade. So it was very mild and no rain, no snow, and it wasn't cold. So it was a good night overall. And then the last 2 events for Q2, we had our gingerbread house decorating workshop, 112 attendees. That's the highest number we've had for that event to date. It was very well attended, very popular. And then Breakfast with Santa, we had 136, which we technically exceeded capacity on that one, but we were able to squeeze in a few extra people to ensure that their little ones were able to get some pictures with Santa. So turned out well, all in all. So that's all I have. If you have any questions for me?
Questions or comments?
No, I appreciate that. It's very impressive. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Jay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do have one question, sorry. Or more like a comment, I guess. What's the possibility of adding other cultural holidays in the events throughout the year?
You're talking about like the Latino festival, but moving to
No,
other-
you have a gingerbread making during the Christmas time, something with Hanukkah, something with Ramadan, Diwali, something where the kids could come in and do a craft or something like that throughout the year,
Sure,
so it's
sure.
just basically, we have diverse community, we know that, but they also celebrate different religions. And I think it would be
Absolutely.
a great idea just to get kids in there and.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd be glad to. We'll sit down
Yeah, and I could
with
sit
our
down
events
with you and
team.
kind of-
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
look into that and see, what type of options may be available, and we can definitely try to pursue that
Excellent, thank
for
you.
sure.
Thank you for volunteering.
Oh, yeah, no, I'll be happy to sit down with him. He knows, I'm there. I drop off my son, he knows I'm there.
Sure, sounds good.
Good evening. So for my Q2, so the focus on these statistics is October to December, with the exception of the top right graph, which is for the library patrons. So at the time that I took these numbers, we had 2,617 library patrons. When we closed Bloom's back in June, we closed with 1,576. So we have gained over 1,000 patrons since we reopened the building or in our new space. And I took these numbers a couple of weeks ago, so they have grown even more since then. For our circulation on the top right, you will see a noticeable increase with all of our circulations. The first two are the main ones. So electronic circulation, this is all of our digital ebooks, audiobooks, movies, music, all of those that we have available in the digital library on our website. You'll see that when we were last year, this time, it was about 466, and we did increase to 1,170. That number is going up as we've expanded that collection even more as we moved into the new space. For physical, we did have about 2,000 this time last year. This year we had almost 9,000 circulation. And it has been pointed out that that's almost exactly to our current and former square footage. So it's just kind of interesting to see that as our square footage, the physical circulations increased about the same amount that our square footage did.
That's wonderful.
Yes. The children's, young adults, and adult is all of the physical circulations just broken down into physical and electronic circulations broken down into the age groups as well. In the lower left-hand corner, we have the library visits. So as with many of these, or unlike with the other ones for this one, 2021 is that yellowish orange, while the 2022 numbers are the blue on this case. So you can see a significant increase in our foot traffic into the library. Those are people that have actually come and visited. And then in the lower right-hand corner, we have our program attendance. For all of our programs, even our young adult ones, which don't typically get quite as much of attendance, although that is changing, we had a at least double increase about for each one. So this slide is part of some of our metrics that we are able to pool. So this shows one dot for every patron that holds a library card. So you can see kind of the approximate location that each of our patrons live. So obviously our focus is in Manassas Park. That's where the majority of ours come, but you can see in the surrounding areas as well as all the way up to DC. If I were to have pooled a map that shows Southern Maryland, you'd also see quite a bit of numbers from there as well. But the focus is, of course, in Manassas Park.
I will say that this was a very effective snapshot that I showed to businesses that really got them interested in our city.
Yeah, it's great. Very great.
Here on the next page is a snapshot of some of our recent programs and outreaches. So we try to go out to the schools. You'll see in the left-hand side a couple of pictures, or specifically one picture from one of our outreaches at the STEM events at the local schools. We attended both those and the multicultural events recently held. We also have quite a few programs that you'll notice take place in the room that you guys are in. So we have had Candy Olympics, that's the lower right in the blue box. We had painting leaves, so taking leaves and doing leaf stamping in whatever design the children would like. We did a thankful family tree for the Thanksgiving time period where people could put what they're thankful on a leaf and tie it to a fake tree. And it's just an ongoing thing that families can do at home every year, or they can start anew every year. We have a lot of our craft and create programs are on here as well. Made gingerbread. We have a couple pictures of our story times. We did a fairly large event for Halloween called Spook Fest. We do that every year, and we did a bunch of green screen pictures for people this year. So you'll see the little picture is the original one up in the bottom right-hand corner, and then that trick-or-treat one is what we turned it into. So they stood in front of the green screen, and we turned it into a printable picture for them that's specific to Spook Fest. All right. And then just to give an overview on some of the metrics that I'm able to track for our traffic coming into the library, we're able to see exactly what the number of ends are each month. So that's the 3 on the top here. We have in October the 3,002 people, 3,012 in November, and 2,908 in December. That drop was, of course, because we had a couple of more days off, and it's the holidays. More people are traveling and not coming into the library. So we did a daily report, and you can see the days that are a little bit more popular versus a little bit slower, but there's not a huge amount that's slow, although currently Sundays are our slowest day. And a lot of that has to do with it also being our shortest day. It's the only day of the week that we're open that we are closed at 6 p.m. compared to 9 p.m. So we just don't have quite as long for people to be able to come in. In the lower left-hand corner, it's a heat map. This is average over a course of 6 weeks, taken about 2-3 weeks ago, so it's not the last 6 weeks. And it just shows on average what the traffics in were for each time period during our open hours. So you'll notice Tuesdays at 10 a.m. and Saturdays at 10 a.m. are our highest, and that is for both of our story times. Spanish story time being held on Saturday mornings, and regular story time being held on, or English story time being held on Tuesday mornings. Those tend to get the largest number of people. This is only for traffic ends. I can also run a metric to see when people are leaving as well on average, and the 8 to 9 o'clock hour does increase for traffic out, so we're getting a lot of people that come in at maybe like 5-6 p.m. and they're staying until we close. So even though we don't get as many people walking through the door at 8 p.m., we get a lot more that are walking out of the door at 8 p.m., 8 to 9. All right. Those are mine.
Comments or questions for Holly? Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I know back in the summertime, we started a program for Wednesdays for senior citizens
Yes.
to be bussed over. Has that been well received, or is it kind of?
Yeah, I can let Jay talk a little bit about that. In terms of the library's impact for it, we didn't see a huge impact, and a lot of the seniors we were talking to said that they would just drive themselves over at a time when was convenient for them.
I want to say we had 0 participants throughout the program. We tried to reach out, but we didn't really have a lot, so we actually discontinued it 3 weeks ago, I want to say. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's kind of disappointing, because I had residents reach out to me that don't drive, that want to know how to get over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Comments or questions? Yes.
Well, I just want to commend you, Holly, on the increase in circulation, both the physical and the electronic. That's a huge jump. And I know we're in a much larger space, but still you're outpacing the square feet. And
Yes.
it's just great to see the library being used and the resources being checked out.
Yeah,
That's
it's
fantastic.
been amazing. We have a lot of regulars that come in and utilize the space for a new location to work. You know, a lot of people remained remote, and we have a couple of people that will bring in their laptop and a secondary screen and set up shop all day at one of our locations, whether it's in a study room or a desk, and just work all day rather than deal with the hustle and bustle at home, or they can't get into the mindset at home as well, so they come to the library. So it's been great to see a lot more new regulars as well. We're getting a lot of new people that are coming in.
Excellent.
That's great. You may have mentioned it and I missed it, but how has the collection grown since day one?
In terms of size or? Yeah, so when we left, approximate numbers, I don't know them on the top of my head, but when we left Bloom's, we had about 6,000 or 7,000 books, and we currently have about 15,000.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Comments or, yes?
Remind me, what was the reason we're closed on Mondays?
There's a variety. It also one of the reasons is it does allow us in the future to grow into Mondays if we feel the need is there. But it also allows IT to come in and do all of the updates on our computers, laptops, and systems, as well as get any deep cleaning done as well on a weekday so that we can make sure that the library is ready for patrons.
Yeah, so it's also contractual. So when we negotiated with LS&S, I don't know how many years ago that was, but when we negotiated the deal, it was kind of a two-part contract, with the first part with the Bloom's Library and kind of how many hours we were buying there of service, and then how many hours we'd be buying with the downtown. So it was trying to kind of fit it within a certain budget, and then we kind of looked around and saw where some other libraries were closing one day, to Holly's point, to do certain refreshes, and Monday seemed like the best day for that.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I say that because you said Sunday is historically the slowest. I would think that would make more sense.
It's so there's shorter hours there. The goal again for Sunday is not for right now necessarily, but more so when the downtown is more active and we have businesses here for people to enjoy the weekends here.
Okay.
Follow up? No? Okay. Comments, questions? Thank you so much, Holly.
Of course, thank you. I did just want to add, we do get a lot of people that come in on Sundays that are glad that we're open then, because the libraries in the area, a lot of them are closed on Sundays. So we do provide and see an increase of those people and then Mondays, a lot of the other libraries are still open, so it's just kind of a trade-off which one they go to then.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Holly. And just it's kind of a reminder, so it's kind of multi-phased approach. We knew our plan was to see an increase in library service once we came to the downtown, increase in popularity as well with the new facility. The next milestone we want to see is when we get businesses here, see kind of that same kind of boost as well, with now bringing people from the outside to partake in our businesses, try to get them to get library cards and participate in our library activities as well. So that's our goal, and so far the plan is working. And again, we as a reminder for our residents, we get revenue for this as well that we previously didn't when we were with the county. So at this point, even with the downtown library, we're spending kind of the same amount as we were before with the county, but now we also have our library as well. So that's kind of we're getting more bang for our buck. Okay, so let me open police. Okay, Chief Lugo.
Welcome, Chief.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the governing body. I'm here to present the mid-year FY22 and FY23 comparison for the police department. I want to start with some highlights that in the second quarter, which was the trunk or treat. We actually had two events for that, one here hosted by the city, and the other one we attended was the one in Prince William County at the Manassas Mall. We attended two Veteran Day events. One was a ceremony here at our plaza, and the other one was the Manassas City Parade for their veterans, which I actually walked the path with that one with the other chiefs. Our annual light parade, we did two events for Santa Cops. One was sponsored by the Fraternal Order Police, our local office here, and then also we did a collection and sponsored a couple of families here and took them out and got them some gifts. I was part of another public service announcement with area chiefs and sheriffs to talk about holiday safety tips. I don't know if you guys got to see it on social media. It was a good turnout, and I thought it turned out pretty well. We had 3 officers in the academy that graduated in December. Happy to say they're in their second phase of their field training, so we're hoping we can get them on the street cut loose here soon. A couple statistics for the department. Increase in calls were kind of like domestics, traffic stops, accidents, burglaries, noise complaints. We did see an increase in foot patrols, which is good, and server requests. Our investigation unit saw a slight increase in narcotics violations, some abuse cases, and some special victim cases. We responded to this mid-year one, only 69 medical calls compared to last year, we were at 80. So there was a reduction in that. And our busiest time for 911 was between 1 and 6, and non-emergency was, I believe, 1 to 5. But I guess it got cut off there, I'm sorry. Part 1 crimes, these are crimes that we report to the FBI. They're considered serious crimes. We saw an increase in larceny of autos, burglaries, and larcenies. Out of those larceny, I think about a third of them were actually stuff that was taken out of vehicles that were left unlocked or broken into. Calls for service, saw an increase in foot patrols, domestics, traffic accidents, vandalisms, and noise complaints. Overall, we did see an increase overall calls, about slightly under 200. Emergency custody order and temporary detention orders, we saw an increase. We almost doubled from last year at this time. We're averaging about 24 hours per case on these. These can be, I think the one we actually had a juvenile for about 4 or 5 days that we sat with them at the hospital trying to find them a bed. But it was averaging about 25 hours per case. Our investigation service division saw an increase in weapon violations, narcotics, which not a whole lot, just by 2. Missing person, we had abuse and neglect. We saw a slight increase in that one too. And we had 1 death investigation. When you compare, for sexual assault victims type cases and just regular investigations, we did see a decrease to about 31%, but we saw an increase in other type of crimes that our investigators were investigating. Training hours, being that we had 3 officers in the academy, so those numbers went up in this quarter. So we were up to, I believe, 2,800 hours, and then we did do a lot of in-house training that was due for our officers for certifications, and then we also sent some of our staff out to train with outside vendors. Parking enforcement, I know that I've talked to us before. We finally hired one, starts next week, so we're excited about that. So we're also trying to get some different ways to get some enforcement. So on our officers, we're given a directive to start going out there and enforcing now that the city decals are enforceable. And also, we've been noticing that some people are not paying their violations, so we're actively looking for those right now. So you do see a decrease in these numbers, but I think these numbers are going to change once we get that parking enforcement officer. This is speed enforcement statistics throughout the city. We had in the first quarter about 265. In the second quarter, we had about 326, which is less than what we had last year around this time. But during this time, we were short 6 to 8 staff members, police officers, but we're down now to just being 5 and having the 3 in the academy. Once they get loose, we should see some more enforcement on these. And so far, in the third quarter, for the first month, we've had 117 violations for speed.
So just to address, so in FY22, we were close to the national average in terms of number of tickets per population ratio, but with the decrease in staffing, we fell below that this year, but we're hoping to ramp that up. And that's, again, we developed this in response. We had a resident concern that we weren't doing enough enforcement. Part of that has to do with, again, the short staffing.
And this is our photo enforcement program for speed over by the schools. As you can see, it was hard to find a comparison between the 2 years because we didn't start the program last year, I think November of 2021. So this will probably be the first year we've had that program. But I think the numbers are going to be roughly the same as last year, even though we've seen a drop in some of the months of actual tickets. Obviously, in 22, we're going to see a significant increase because that's when the program started. So that's why the numbers are kind of high on that one. And these are some photos that we took for, this quarter, second quarter on FY23. We did a vehicle honoring our veterans of, in the military, our Santa cops right there, the pictures with the children and the families we sponsored. trunk or treat. And then the radio flyer, one of our officers made this. He was, driving around the city delivering gifts, which was exciting for the kids in our community. And then obviously the vehicle that with the lights parade was part of our annual event. And I'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Chief. That was great. My only question is, are we any closer to receiving information regarding how many violent felons have been released into the Manassas Park, Manassas, Prince William area?
That's been a difficult task for us because nobody keeps track of that. We're finding out, we contacted the courts, zero answer. We looked online, we can't find it on the state database. So what we have something that we're going to present to Mr. Palco to hopefully forward to you guys of what we found out and the trends, what it seems like. But we can't tell you what individuals are released for what crimes and for what reasons. It's not telling us that. And the court of the clerk is not responding to our request. I don't think they track it.
Well, I'm shocked that they don't.
But I think because it could be the magistrate releases them. If the judge does, yes, they got a record of it, but I'm not sure they're separating those stats to be followed. I think it was going to require somebody to go in there by hand and start looking at every case and figure out why they were released and what bonds were issued.
Okay, that would be a very expensive FOIA then,
Yes,
wouldn't it?
yes.
Okay.
But Major and I have been working on something, and I think
Yeah.
it'll at least answer
Okay.
some questions.
And they know, they're aware that we don't want names, we just want numbers.
Yeah, but I think it still requires you go in to that case, find out why, when they were released, what bonds were issued, and how long they spent in jail.
Sure, sure.
It seems like the norm across the region is that they're not incarcerating individuals because the jails are not as full as they used to be.
There was a bill passed 2 years ago that gave enhanced credits, so a lot of the jails and correction facilities across the Commonwealth of Virginia, the credits have increased, so they're releasing many people. If you want the numbers, I can get DOC to provide the numbers of people who've been released from state incarceration. They're just Manassas Park. They had the original address. I can get that number for you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for the chief? Yes, ma'am.
Chief, first of all, I thank you and your officers for what you do. It's not an easy job, so I want to thank you. Second, I wanted to follow up on the parking enforcement officer, because this is the number one thing I hear from folks. So when the person start next week, will they be going driving around the mini mobile again?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to give her at least a week or two to, she's coming from a neighboring jurisdiction. She's been doing the job for a while now, so just learning our e-ticket device, how do we issue citations, our area, and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I'm saying in about 2 weeks, you should see more of her on the road.
In the middle of March, then?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll let residents know. Thank you.
Welcome.
I just have a question about any of the overdoses. Has that increased? How many of you Narcan? Are you seeing Trank at all in the community?
I'm not seeing that many calls go out because I normally get those texts on my phone. I'm not seeing a whole lot of overdose. The problem is a lot of the fire ones that get there,
Right.
and they'll transport them before we get there sometimes.
Are you seeing Trank at all in the community?
I've seen
Trank, the Trank. It's called Trank. It's a tranquilizer. Narcan doesn't work on it. It's about a third of the overdoses in New York City. It's about 50% in Vermont, and it's making its way down here.
I have not heard that.
Is that the one that's referred to as the zombie drug?
No, that's the, I think that one's called Alligator. It's called Alligator.
Oh.
There's another one called carfentanil, but there's one called Trank, and Narcan doesn't work, and they're seeing it in the Richmond area. I was in Chesterfield County last week, and they're saying they're starting to see like one or two. It's increased. So
I haven't heard from our officers or the fire department that Narcan's not working, so I'm not sure we're experiencing that here yet.
Wow. Okay. Comments or questions? No. Chief, thank you for the explanation about the violent felon question, because folks in the community are interested in that, and at least now they know the issue. They know the problem getting the information. So
Yes.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. We have no closed meeting. Is there anything else for the good of the city? No? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.